Hi, welcome to Quirky Queen's Journals. My name's Kirsten. So I have been doing some more abstract art. So this is 300 GSM watercolour paper, A3 size, and I have put gesso on it. Do you know, I keep forgetting to add gesso to things, and what a difference it makes. This didn't curl at all, and there is layers upon layers of paint on here. And, you know, some of the paint was watery. It wasn't like it was just very dry paint. Anyway, so I started with my favourite big black marking, making long flowing lines that go everywhere on the page. And now I am using, I think that was deep violet or prism violet, pale olive green, turquoise blue and Payne's grey to begin with, paints. So at the moment this is looking a bit like a dog looking behind him. I feel like every layer produces a different animal. So I kind of just thought, just do your thing, don't overthink it, just do what comes naturally. So I drew some cartoon feet, which just seemed to come naturally at the time. I think it's because I've got new posca pens. So I just felt the urge to use them. And they're sitting right there. I should probably put them away. I do feel like overwhelmed to use them. But I do think that bright pink actually went in really well with that purple. It looks much closer to the purple on video than it did in person. I wasn't too happy with this. I just cover it up again. Most of this is covered up, but that's the nature of it. So anyway, I have been watching a lot of Museum of Modern Art videos with Corey D'Agostine, I think his name is. And he's basically been going through sort of post-war abstract expressionism, and it is amazing. I will link the channel in the description. So he goes through a bit of the history of them and also the kind of approach they took to their painting, what they used, you know, how long it took them, you know, step by step. And then he would produce a painting step by step in their style. And it was so informative. And anybody that's interested in abstract expressionism, I highly recommend it to them. You know, it was so watchable, so entertaining, but so informative. A rare combination. So this is Payne's grey. I was at the range, and this art studio is a very value brand. However, they've brought out this premium range. Now these paints were £2 for 120 mils, and they are fantastic. They are like butter, they flow, they've got a lot of pigment in them, they're really vibrant colours. The only thing is it doesn't tell you the opacity on the tube. However, the three colours that I bought and used are definitely opaque colours, but you know, they behave wonderfully, so they go on so easily. So, recommending the Art Studio Premium Acrylic Paints range. So a lot of the time when I'm making videos, what I tend to do is I kind of think, oh, don't do that, that's a bit weird. I kind of think, I think about what other people do, and I try to sort of not emulate them, but I kind of do what I think I should. I think, well, if they're doing it and they're popular, then it must be the right way to do it. However, I really like making long flowing lines. I like making shapes. I like combining them all together. I like letting it dry. And then I like going back to it and basically doing the same again with what's already there. And it's kind of what I like to do. And it's naturally what I always want to do and have to kind of fight it. So this time I'm just doing it. To me, it feels a little bit like graffiti art. Like when I was younger, I would do my name and then in big block capitals, and then I would do lines around it to cover the whole page. And I just loved the variety that. I loved how it looked. It had these really sharp, angular edges. The colours were really vibrant. And there was something about that I just really liked the look of. And I think I've added in yellow green. And it looks like a lime green. And to me, that's that's like a graffiti art type colour. But I don't want to use spray paints or anything. I love acrylic paints. They're my absolute favourite. I think they're so versatile. And I wouldn't want to use another medium. I like doing it with acrylics, and I like doing it on canvases and paper. I don't want to do it to walls. But this is just the sort of stuff I like. I like these shapes. Okay, so I'm covering up a lot of what came before. However, I wouldn't be making the shapes and the lines and the colours that I am just now if I hadn't had that first layer down. Does that make sense? Oh, one thing I learned on that series of videos I was watching on the Museum of Modern Art was it was Jackson Pollock that first used the white paint to cover up the stuff that he didn't want and to bring... Not the stuff he didn't want, I think it was to bring space back into the paintings. Okay, I've told you a fun fact, but I don't fully know the information around it. I will update this fact when I actually gather the facts around it. So this is me using the Posca pens. So with the big paintbrush, which I'm using on purpose, the lines are quite blurry around the edges. So I'm making some of the edges sharper, which, that adds variety, and variety is what I think is very interesting in a painting. Now, I did some smaller shapes with the yellow Posca pen and the purple Posca pen there, but they feel unnatural. They don't feel like... It doesn't feel like the painting was ready to have those very small details yet. And every time I do add in these small details, I do end up covering it up. Now, I think it's went from looking like a dog to now it's going to look like an elephant. That pale olive green colour, I watched Jackie Schomburg, and she's always referring to, now, I think it's Celadon green she talks about, and I think this colour is just like it. Look how it glides. The paint glides. It's lovely. It does make a difference, because see, when you're having to work hard with the paint, if it's too tacky or it's too watery or whatever, it is distracting you from what you're doing, so you're having to think about that rather than just kind of going with the flow. So to find paint at £2 that behaves like this is just wonderful. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking about it now. I like as well, I use the big black marker to create, shapes, the outline of the shapes and that. But when you're putting down the paint, sometimes you can make lines with the paint because it just naturally feels like it flows. Do you know, I really like this, and I considered stopping here, but I didn't. I kept going because 2 layers doesn't feel like it's... I would always look at it and think, oh, I didn't put enough effort into you. I feel like if you've not put the effort in and the time, it's not a finished painting. I do like what's coming out the elephant's trunk there, those, curved lines. But then when I put it under his body, I didn't like those ones. I'm glad I added these in, because they're definitely looks more interesting now. I would like to add, it's not an elephant, it's not meant to be an elephant, it just looks like an elephant. So I'm calling it an elephant. So I wonder as well, that is one thing that I have been thinking about, is the amount of time and the amount of layers and the amount of complexity in a painting. You know, do you need to have a lot of complexity and a lot of layers for a painting to be considered finished and to be considered good? That is something I'd really like to know. And is that something that you learn at art school? Or is that something that just comes with experience of developing your own style and seeing how other people react to your paintings? I would really like to know the answer to this. So if anybody knows, let me know. How complex and how long do you need to spend in a painting for it to be considered good? See, I'm doing more thinner and more detailed lines now, and it feels right because there is more going on in the painting overall. I don't like the ones on the bottom left, those purple ones I did. They feel unnatural, but these white ones feel like they should be there. Although I do go over the top on this section that I'm in just now. But I think you've always got to push it. If you don't find out where the limits of the painting are, as in you don't cross that line into, oh no, that's too much, then I always feel like you have to find that sort of where the boundaries are and what works and what doesn't. Because if you don't, then the painting's not right because you've not actually discovered that. So I've come back here later on and forgot to put on my LED lights. So it's a little bit dark looking, but it only lasts for a couple of minutes. I did some of this painting last night and I did some of it this morning. But I did some yesterday afternoon, some last night and some this morning. So this is cadmium yellow deep hue, and it really does brighten it right up, but it doesn't last for long. I love using the Posca pens. I love how they feel. I love how the paint comes out them. I just feel that, I suppose I don't have enough experience using them yet to know kind of when to use them and when not to. And I'm wondering if thicker nibs might have been more suited to my style. They're called a medium nib, so I think that these would maybe be better for a more detailed drawing. So I'm going to need to invest in some of the big ones, but they're far too expensive just now. But then they make, I really like that yellow line I've put on. I don't like that purple and white one I've put on in the bottom right corner under the yellow, but I really like that long flowing yellow one I put on. I just need to use them more and get used to them. Do you know what it is? I like it when I do the long lines with them, but when I make these little complex kind of shapes and pictures with them, when I fill in an area with little shapes with them, that's what I don't like. Though on the bottom left hand side, that purple and yellow little shaped section with the Posca pens is actually growing on me. And now it's gone. So I'm liking, there's a lot more curved lines in it. So the curved lines and the angular lines are definitely, you can see the contrast between them. And I'm liking that. So it's become very dark just now, but that's just this layer. It lightens up again. That's another thing I'd like to know more about. I know that value provides your biggest contrast, in paintings, which helps make your focal point. It's like the distribution of values across your painting, trying to find that balance as well. So I take photographs and look at it through a black and white filter and to try and work it out. And sometimes it surprises me what is light and what is dark, the colour-wise. Like, for example, that turquoise blue and Payne's grey, their value is actually very, very similar. Whereas I would have thought the turquoise blue was more of a medium value. But it's a learning curve. I'll just keep trying, and I'll keep trying to find out information. So the process of this painting really is just layers and layers and layers, and, you know, finding out the shapes and the composition, I suppose, as I go, rather than having it defined at the start. So this is me. I'm trying to add in some texture now. So I was lifting the paint off there because that's part of why I like a lot of layers, is I like bringing back what's underneath. I just think that, to me, that's what makes the painting as well. It's the kind of where it started and where it's ended up and everything in between. So, you know, like putting that piece of paper on top of the pale olive green paint there has shown some of the shapes and colours that were underneath and added texture as well. I think every colours, I've made a square from every colour up in that top left hand corner. Okay, so I kind of had given up slightly on the painting at this point, so I've painted this layer and not videoed it. Anyway, all I did was paint like I'd done before, and now I've sprayed on some water and I'm kind of was using tissue to lift it off, and now I've put on cling film. Now I wish I'd wrinkled the cling film more than I did, but it already started lifting, so I couldn't do anything about it. But I left that on for about 15 minutes and I've pulled a good lot of paint off, and now I've Mod Podged on top of it, just a gloss medium. It doesn't even need to be gloss, it could have been a matte medium. It was to seal it, but the gloss finish has given me this surface where I can wipe high flow acrylic paints or acrylic inks on top and then kind of wipe them off again. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create some darks and lights and some more interest within the sort of shapes that are there. I like to think of it as giving form to the shapes. I don't know if that's accurate. So that was chalk pastel, a soft pastel. That's yellow. I do go a bit mad with these, but they just wipe off. I do love that yellow on top of the purple, because yellow and purple are complementary, and therefore when you use them together it neutralises the colour a bit, so it almost mutes it and it helps bring focus to other areas. But I still like how it looks. Red. Now I need to stop using this red soft pastel because it is the most intense bit of medium I've ever used, because it literally goes everywhere. It doesn't leave. It's the gift that keeps giving, even if you don't want it to. But it looks so beautiful that I can't resist using it. I end up washing that off actually. I just got a wet tissue there and I've took a lot of it back off. So I do like how it was really quite stark and solid colours. However, once you start kind of bringing in, you know, paying more attention to the outlines, and also you start bringing back some of the colours and shapes that were underneath, it becomes a lot more interesting. I do think it looks like a duck, but that's just me. I think I want to see animals in the paint layers. So I'm not sure that I used best colour choices. However, I really liked the process and I'll be using this process again. I liked I liked having the Mod Podge on where I could actually remove it if I felt it was too intense or it was too much. And I do feel that that really added to it. I like how textured the kind of pale area in the middle looks. Wouldn't really say there's much of a focal point. So I'm putting on a glaze. This is just glazing medium with yellow high flow paint. And then I've added in water. I'll add in more yellow. And then I'm going to let it dry, I think. No, add in one more bit of paint. There we go. So this will dry, and then I'm going to add in some more. This is I'm using a very wet paintbrush here and putting on some of the pale olive green. Just because some of the outlines, they'd become a bit murky because I couldn't decide on my colour and basically put every colour down. So I also, at the end, I show you another 2 pictures. There's the finished picture, and then what I do is I use some Posca pens on it and I put some dashes on, and then I put some lines on. But I prefer the picture as the original. But also it's nice to experiment and try new things as well. So this is the finished picture. I got out the Posca pens. I've done some dots and dashes, and then I've turned them into lines. So thanks very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.